As you were learning freediving, and I'm sure everyone in this industry, in this community can tell that story, what were those milestones, if you want to walk us through that, the day you hit 20, the day you hit 40, and finally when you hit 70, the preparation, the feeling, and just that's an open question of walk us through when you first hit those crazy milestones.
I would say the first was 40 meters, and I think it's true for most of the freedivers, because you're reaching what we call the residual volume of your lungs. So your lungs will not get so much smaller after 40 meter, and it's becoming very hard to equalize your ears and sinuses from that point. So this is like a big wall. And then after, I would say 60, then 80. So I correct you, I've been to 90.
Okay.
And 80 was a big, how do you say, milestone?
Milestone.
Yeah. So 80 meters for me was very hard to adapt the pressure. So your lungs get, pretty compressed. Your sternum start to being sucked in. And then you really need to have a high flexibility to accept that pressure without injuring yourself. So I would say 40, 60, 80 was like the big milestone. And in terms of breath hold, I would say every minute, your first 1 minute, your first 2 minutes, etc., all the way to 10. This is just psychological effect. Every time you're breaking the minute, there is a bit of a fear. Or anxiety. And
what's that process? Let's say, okay, you hit 40. I can only speak for my 20, but let's say when you're going for 80, you don't just wake up one day and say, I'm going for 80. There has to be I'm assuming some sort of preparation as well. And how many times did you fail before you hit it? Like, maybe failing at 72, 75. Can you talk about that experience specifically on that dive to even your max 90?
Yeah. So my worst experience was in Egypt. I think it was 2014. I progressed in depth. Before doing so much static breath hold, I was trying to dive as deep as I can. So I was not specializing in the pool disciplines, but more in the depth disciplines. And at 80 meter, 85 meter, I had a proper blackout, so deep. I barely reached the safety, which you said they wait for you between 20, 25 meters. It depends how deep you go. They go between 20 meters and 40 meters, depending on how the athlete, how deep is going. And I was going to 85. It was in Egypt in the Daha Blue Hole, famous place to freedive. And I squeezed the lungs. So I wasn't adapted to pressure enough, and I wasn't wise enough to stop the dive, turn around, because I feel too much pressure on the chest. So I just ignore sensations, I really wanted to go 90. And then the pressure just injured my lungs a little bit. Your lungs are bleeding slightly, and the oxygen diffusion start to get low, very low. So in that case, if you injure your lungs during a dive, most likely you're going to black out before the surface.
If you enjoyed this content, we're doing 5 clips like this a week. If you want to watch the full podcast, click here.